Hello and welcome to the Know Your Worth presentation. Today we're going to focus on job offer evaluation and salary negotiation strategies. This presentation is a part of the Edge Scholar series. It's geared mostly towards seniors or any student or person who is ready to transition into the wide world of work and is potentially going to have multiple job offers that they're evaluating. My name is Raven Ortolan-Wiesman. I'm a senior career advisor and I work for the John P. Fahey Career Center on Creighton's campus. The first part that we really want to tackle is offer evaluation. Now, of course, if we have multiple offers, this becomes incredibly important, but it's a really good step to look into even if you have only one job offer, because we want to make sure that we have a good fit. Some of the things that we're going to think about are why we're really interested in this job. Hopefully we're going to enjoy the work itself. It's something that we're interested in. We can see ourselves doing that kind of work. But beyond that, we also want to ensure that the supervisor that we're going to have and then the work environment and the organization is supportive of our needs. And for some of us, that may be that we need a particular supervisory style. We might want someone who's supportive or someone who's going to merit our work in a particular way. And then depending on your interests, your needs, it may be that you want an organization that is going to align with your values or is going to be producing something that you think is of particular value. Beyond those elements, which of course could take a good deal of reflection for each individual, it's important that throughout this process that we're communicating with whoever it is that's reaching out to us, usually someone in human resources, and that we're expressing whether we need more information, we're asking our questions and making sure that we understand the information in front of us. Now, if you have a job offer, remember that they want you and you want them. So this is a really good piece. This is not an us versus them situation. We're in this together. And you'll see we have a lot of slides on doing research, and so that you can be as well informed as possible in this process so that we can help you be successful and understand whether what you're asking for is within reason. And we also want to consider the whole job offer, which is what our next slide is going to delve into. The salary that you're offered is only part of the job offer. So we're going to be really looking at total compensation. So when we talk about total compensation, it means a couple different things. One is that we want to look at the basics. Of course, we have our salary, but we also have insurance. And so most organizations, most jobs are going to have insurance be a part of it. They may not have vision and dental, so that is going to be included as a potential part of the compensation package. Also, we'll probably have paid time off. How much? How much vacation versus sick time? Looking at retirement plans, and we'll dive into that further, but does our employer match for our retirement? What kind of insurance they offer, whether it's life or disability, whether they have employee assistance programs, and then also what kind of spending accounts do they have, whether flexible or health savings. But then there are other things in addition to the basics that contribute to total compensation. And so, for example, at Creighton, we have tuition reimbursement. But also for your organization, it could be loan forgiveness. It could be that there is free parking. They maybe have childcare options or fitness incentives, et cetera, et cetera. So when we're thinking about the job offer, we're going to look at the totality of that offer and consider the bonuses in addition to the basics. As I mentioned, a big part of evaluating job offers is to know what is typical for your area. And so this means doing research. Now, the types of resources I listed here, including the occupational employment statistics, Glassdoor, PayScale, Indeed, etc., these are only the tip of the iceberg. Of course, there are other resources that you could use to try to determine what a typical salary would be for the positions that you're applying for, but this is a really good place to start. This first resource, Occupational Employment Statistics, this is actually from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, and so the information there is from people who have been surveyed in a variety of positions. I've included a screenshot of what one of those screens look like, where we can actually have seen the annual mean wage of social workers, and if this was a live site, I could have hovered my cursor over the different areas across the map to get a sense for what the mean wage is in different localities. Very helpful. You'll show a resource that this same occupational employment statistics offers later on, where you can actually see what types of industries within social work have higher employment. And they do this for a variety of different types of jobs, and so really an excellent resource. We also have Glassdoor.com, and so here we were looking at a copywriter position specifically, looking in the Omaha area. It's giving me an idea of what the salary ranges are and also talking about salaries for related job titles. So if I maybe don't know what a particular job is that I'm looking for, I'm trying to do research in advance of being offered a job, perhaps also a good idea to type in not only the job titles I think I'm going to get, but also perhaps look for other alternative job titles. And keep in mind too, when we're looking at these salary ranges, that you are probably going to be on the lower end right now because you don't have a lot of experience. If, however, this job could have been done by someone without a bachelor's, that's going to increase your where you're going to end up in that salary range because you have a bachelor's degree or will have one shortly. And so those are all things to consider: experience and also education level. PayScale is another resource we can use to look at salaries. For this time, I looked at a lab technologist, and so also showing me a market range, giving me an idea of a potential bonus. I was getting a bonus in this area, and it did also allow me to look at alternative job titles, so I couldn't get all that into the screen. But I thought this was a really helpful resource. I liked it for also that you can do a survey when you use this tool, and so it'll actually compute any certifications you have, what your education experience is, what your experience, like how many years you've had different types of opportunities, and it'll contribute that into your estimated market range. I didn't cover Indeed.com/salary in this particular presentation, only because it's very similar to PayScale and Glassdoor. But if you are doing research, it's helpful to use many different resources and services to try to estimate or get the best idea of an estimate for the salary range for your position and experience level. But of course, also you can use your network, talk to people who are perhaps in similar positions, talk to people who are familiar with the labor market, talk to your career center, whoever you have in your network to get a sense for what are typical salary ranges for your experience level, education, etc. And you can also look at current openings. Often current openings will post what the salary range is, and this can also be helpful to try to ascertain what it is you're looking for and be reasonable going into the job offer evaluation and salary negotiation conversations. As I referenced earlier, this is from that same occupational handbook. And so you can actually look at some of the contributing factors because salary is just one piece. In addition to experience, we're also thinking about location. So am I going to be moving to an area where there's a high cost of living? Hopefully that salary then is going to be increased so I can have the same standard of living I'm having currently in Omaha, Nebraska. But then we're also looking at the type of industry. So if we're looking at public relations, we can see that advertising, public relations, and related services usually have the highest area of employment for people who are in public relations. If I was in social work, individual and family services, state government are going to be some of the top areas. Knowing where people are hiring can be helpful, and so that's why that occupational handbook, really a great tool. It could also, if I had used a different filter function, had told me about what areas pay the most. So depending on what you're looking for, what your interest is, this can be a really helpful tool to research. But then the other piece that we need to do is know what we can live on. So creating a personal budget and having a strong sense of what am I going to need in this job? What do I need coming in so that I can pay all my bills and still be making money at the end of the day? Definitely creating a personal budget can be helpful for that. We have some listed here. So Mint, Personal Capital, Budget Plus, Money Strands, and Money Trackin' are all free sites. So use the one that makes sense for you. Some are more geared towards people who are doing investing. Some are more beginners. Some are going to ask to be connected to your banking account. Some are not going to have to have that connection. So depending on what you feel comfortable with and what you're looking for, a nice variety. And a lot of these can be accessed from your phone too, which, if that's helpful for you, can make this budgeting a little bit easier. So go into these offer evaluations and salary negotiations knowing not only what is an expected salary for the position you're looking for, but what you need coming in to make that job work. So in addition to learning more about what the salary expectations are, knowing what our needs are as far as a budget, we also want to understand those other elements of the job offer. A big piece of that is health insurance. So here we have typical types of health insurance that are offered. So preferred provider organization, exclusive provider organization, point of service, and health maintenance organization. Now, for most of the time, you're going to be paying some money per month towards that health care. What we find most frequently is that the more you're spending, the less flexible that healthcare plan, or the more you're spending, the more flexible that healthcare plan is. So the PPO plans are going to be the most flexible. What does that mean? That means that you have the most access to a variety of providers, and that your bills when you go to the office, when you go to the clinic, what have you, are typically going to be less expensive because insurance will pay more of those. The disadvantage, of course, is that you're paying more per month. And so if you're trying to find the greatest access to a variety of providers, the PPO is going to be what you want the most. However, if you're relatively healthy and you feel like you are fine with going to only one provider, like one particular type of clinic or hospital, perhaps something like an HMO would be better for you. Now, not all of these types are going to be offered every place that you work at. So knowing what types of healthcare plans your potential organization has, and then what you're looking for is going to be really important. Let's see. Oh, other things they bring up here about referral required to see a specialist. And so if it is required to see a specialist, that's usually going to be in like the least less flexible. If you feel like you need to go see a particular specialist for something, you're going to need approval, insurance approval first before you can go see someone to make sure that they're covered. Not that that's a huge deal for a lot of people, but those types of pieces are helpful to anticipate going in. Let's see. I think we've talked about everything here. So questions we want to ask when we're looking at benefits package, of course, is there health insurance? And then what is covered? Health, yes, that's covered pretty much all the time, but then perhaps not vision or dental. Those are only sometimes covered. Are there options for spouses and dependents to be covered? And then sometimes there are different insurance companies available. If you had a preference or if you're interested, those are good things to know in advance. And then also thinking about what types of plans are available that we just talked about. In addition to health insurance, retirement, big thing to consider. So we're going to put money into a retirement plan. Typically, it's going to be a mix of stocks and mutual funds managed by an investment firm. You typically, sometimes you can have some access to say where your money is invested. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes it's going to be determined by the company and you don't get to have a say there. Your money will grow in value and you get to tap into that at retirement. Most employers are going to offer either the 401k, which we hear about a lot. That's usually a for-profit organization, and then 403bs is almost the equivalent, and that's for a nonprofit organization. So some of the things that differ with retirement plans from organization and from job offer to job offer is the contribution timelines. That means when you can start contributing towards your retirement with your paycheck, whether the company will match and when they'll match and to what amount. Vesting, which means when that retirement money really becomes yours. So if you quit tomorrow, that money doesn't become yours until you're actually vested. So how long before you're vested? And then again, whether you can pick or whether you have influence over where your money is invested within that retirement plan. So some of the questions we're asking is, when am I eligible to contribute? A typical contribution amount is anywhere between 3% to 6% of your paycheck towards your retirement. And then is there a company match? Will they match if I give a certain percentage, and what percentage is that, and when does that kick in? Again, when am I vested? When is this money truly mine? Is it after 2 years, 5 years, etc.? And then what investment firms can you choose from if that's something you're interested in? So knowing these pieces, let's do a job offer comparison. So let's say we have two offers. One is for a base salary of $60,000, another is for a base salary of $65,000. Now, of course, there are going to be other factors in what we're including here. So whether the environment is better at one place or another, what the location is like, et cetera, et cetera. But if we only have this information, we can see that the health insurance costs on offer A are going to be less than the health insurance at offer B. So perhaps they had something like an HMO, perhaps health insurance only has the PPO. Parking at offer B is going to be $500. There's free parking at offer A. We do have a 401k offered at both places, so we're assuming that we are going to contribute 3% to our retirement. no matter where we end up. The perk is that at offer A, we will have that matched by the employer. So they are matching an additional percentage. And then also there are perks at offer A. We don't know what that is. It's perhaps free childcare or some tuition reimbursement. Maybe it's that they have additional technologies or fitness, something, but we have additional perks offered at offer A. And we're having taxes taken out at both offer A and offer B. So if we look at our total compensation, what we're taking back home after all of those considerations, it's $45,000, close to $45,000 for offer A, closer to $44,000 for offer B. And so if we were really interested in the bottom line for salary take home, we would actually be doing better with offer A. Now, offer B might still be a better choice for us. Maybe that's the health insurance we wanted, even though it's more expensive. And perhaps that's a really great environment. Maybe it's just in our backyard. We don't have to commute much, et cetera, et cetera. But these are the types of things that we really want to be considering. Now, oftentimes benefits are things that you can see from a website, a company website, without needing specific permissions from HR. For example, you could look at Creighton's benefit package right now just to get a sense for what a benefits package looks like. And that might be helpful, and meet with a career advisor if you're having questions about how to navigate that, because it can get confusing. So know that career advisors are here for you, and we do virtual appointments. Of course, we'll do in-person appointments once campus reopens, but if you want to email with us or if you want to have a Zoom appointment, phone appointment, we'd be happy to answer some of these questions if you're evaluating offers. Okay, so talking about salary negotiation. I recognize that for some people this feels very uncomfortable, but it becomes more and more comfortable the more you do it. So let's dive in. Now, you don't always have to negotiate salary. You don't want to negotiate just to negotiate. But some reasons that you would be that your skills or experience, your education level are higher than the basic requirements of the position. It could be that the pay that they're offering you is less than the industry average, which you'll have known because you'll have done that research we talked about earlier on. You'll have an idea for what the salary is typical for this position. It may also be that they're offering an average for salary, but for a location that doesn't have as high a cost of living. Because the higher cost of living, you need to make more. Or perhaps you're really lucky and you have received multiple offers with similar benefits, and then you're looking to let them know and that you're a hot commodity, and you can then negotiate. Now, when to negotiate salary, the best time is after the offer is already made by the employer. We're trying not to talk about salary before that offer is made. And then also don't be the first person to bring it up. Let the employer lead that conversation. In an application, so sometimes they'll ask you as you're applying to something what your expected salary is. Try to say either open or negotiable. If they're going to force you to put in a number, you put in a number based on the expected salary that you've seen that position makes. And then try, if you're going to be having these conversations, to do it in person. Like right now we're not doing these in person, but typically we would recommend trying to have a salary negotiation conversation in person versus on the phone. So this is what that conversation could look like. Based on the industry average and my level of experience and education, I am seeking between $35,000 and $40,000. Or I'm aware that the typical range for this kind of position is between $35,000 and $40,000, and I'd like to be at the higher end of that range if possible. So we're using some open language, and you'll notice that we're using a range. We're not saying I want $42,000. We're saying that we recognize that there's a range of salary for this position. I'm looking to be at the higher end of that range. And the reason is that you want to give them some wiggle room to come back and negotiate with you. And so it'd be harder if we gave a specific number. Better to give a range and try to work towards the higher part of that range. Now, I would say if you're saying something like this, that you should also be okay with the lower end of that range, or you probably shouldn't be bringing this up. So if they offer you then $35,000 and you're like, no, that's too low, it's going to make that conversation more awkward. So hopefully you've done your research, and also you're going to be comfortable with either end of this range. Now, as far as how to negotiate salary, how that looks, let the employer go first. If the salary is less than expected, point to your research to demonstrate. So let them know that you've done research and perhaps you have some of that information you can back up. Like I've looked at PayScale and Glassdoor and the Bureau of Labor and Statistics and their occupational employment handbook, and that can support your research into what that salary should be. So counter their offer using language like we just did with a desired range and emphasize your interest in the position and reinforce that you want to be in that role. So then consider other variables of offers that could be negotiated. So the salary is one piece, and there are some organizations that for whatever reason, they may not be able to negotiate salary. But remember too that there's other ways we can negotiate. So some companies that you're going to have will have a signing bonus, and that could be negotiated, or perhaps the relocation stipend if you're moving to a new city. Maybe they're going to invest more in your retirement plan or vest earlier, so it's going to support you in the long run. You might be able to get more vacation days or sick days if you can't get a higher salary. Or maybe they'll help with tuition reimbursement or loan repayment, or maybe those are things that you want to negotiate and you don't want to negotiate salary in the first place. Things to consider. Keep the conversation reasonable and honest. Understand the employer's situation. If they're telling you that they cannot negotiate salary, they're not doing that to be deceitful. That's an honest stance that they're coming from. Don't get greedy or frustrated with them, and be cautious of leveraging your other offers, because it could happen that if you say that you have another offer and they're offering to pay quite a bit more money, if you give off the impression that that other offer is more exciting to you, it could be that the company you're negotiating with rescinds their offer. It doesn't happen often, but it can happen, so we're going to be delicate when we're having these conversations. So some additional tips when we're going into this. Remember that employers expect candidates to negotiate. This is common. So they have had this conversation before, and it looks better if you do negotiate if there's a reason to versus not negotiating. You look stronger. Employers rarely negotiate beyond 5 to 10% of the original offer. So if you have a drastically different number than what they're giving you, less likely that they're going to be able to meet you where you want to be. And then, as I said, some employers cannot negotiate, so that can include federal, state, and local government positions, public schools, social service agencies, and some union positions. Remember, too, that they want to hire you. That's why they offered you the job. When you have that final offer, we have a few different options. Of course, we can accept. We get the offer in writing, including the start date, salary, employment location, and details of the benefits package. At that time, if we've accepted the offer, we have that in writing, we're going to stop searching. We're going to contact other active applications, removing ourselves from consideration. Okay, so we don't want to renege on an offer. We don't want to burn bridges with this employer. We're stopping the search other times. If we're not sure about accepting the offer, we can also ask for time to consider. That's a fine thing to do. That's common. Usually 1 to 2 weeks is an acceptable extension. And giving them a reason, like I want to talk with my family about this position, make sure it's a good fit for all. I'm really excited about this. Please just give me a week or two to make this decision final. And that's okay. Also, you can decline the offer. Now, if you're declining the offer, communicate your decision as soon as possible and follow up with a professional letter expressing your appreciation for the offer. And then lastly, don't forget to use your resources. You have lots of people who've been through this process before. So you can, of course, meet with the Career Center. We have a website with information about salary researching. And then we also have information on interviewing, resources also about negotiating salaries. You can make an appointment with us if you would like to talk about this one-on-one. And we also have a lot of different positions posted on Handshake. But beyond that, there are professional organizations. So for example, if I was interested in psychology positions, I know there's the American Psychological Association I could go to. If this is medical, there are various medical professional organizations. If it's environmental, go to there, etc. Oftentimes they'll have resources for having these types of offer evaluations and salary negotiation conversations. Here we just have some things to consider as far as meeting with the Career Center. When the campus reopens, you can visit us in Harper 1088. Of course, you can call us. You can call it. We're answering that phone even today. And then once we have classes in session again and we're meeting in person, then we can do drop-ins Monday through Friday 2 to 4:30. But in the meantime, schedule online via Handshake. We'll meet virtually with you. And my name is Raven. I really enjoyed talking with you today. And please, if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out.